With the concepts, I'm going to give an overview here and I'm going to give examples. Then, because I believe it's beneficial sometimes to learn not in your domain, is I'm going to give you a car driving example, because my presumption is, especially being in LA, everybody drives, everybody's familiar with cars. And then I'll give a startup example. These are concrete examples from Techstars companies that I've worked with. That includes the 3 classes that I was a part of as an MD team or coach in Boulder, as well as network-wide, a lot of the classes that I've been working with. So first up, actionable versus vanity. So this comes out of the lean startup language. Actionable metric for your car, check engine light goes on. Pretty clear sign I need to take action on that. I need to do something. A vanity metric is the relative horsepower of your super sport car. This doesn't tell the whole picture. This is for bragging. So you know it's a vanity metric when you're using it to brag. Because in car land, it's not just the horsepower, it's the torque, it's the weight of the car. There's a whole bunch of other factors that indicate performance and handling. In startup land, actionable is number of iOS crash reports per day. So I was working with a company, they were having some quality issues, and that became a KPI that they tracked for a few months to get their quality in order. Total iOS downloads, total vanity. Brag about that does really no good to understanding and making progress within your business. Flow over stock. So a flow metric in car is a rare sight here, but when traffic's moving smoothly, these are things, measurements that you look at over time. Stock metrics are like a parking lot. It's a cumulative metric. So you know it's a stock metric when the number can never go down. Stock metrics are very dangerous to pay attention to in your business because by definition, they only go up and to the right. Even though all of the mechanisms underneath your business may be failing, that number will lead you to think you're making progress. So if we think about this in startup land, daily active users, that's a flow metric. That's over some per unit of time, goes up and down with time. Stock metrics are total user signups. Again, great to brag about, but it doesn't let you really understand how your business is working. We've got qualitative and quantitative metrics. So what's qualitative? Those are the stories. So in this case, this is the text that describes car and driver's test of the BMW M2. So that gives you kind of a feel for what the car is like. And then quantitative are the raw numbers, the metrics. So here you can look at the actual numbers of things. A lot of times we think about in business building that it's only the quantitative metrics that matter, but the qualitative ones are really important too sometimes. An NPS example here, on the qualitative side, the storytelling side, it's really powerful. If somebody gives you a Net Promoter Score of 0, read their feedback. At Rally, when I ran and led the product team, every Net Promoter Score 0, 1, and 10 I would read that came in. And then a quantitative is a 30-day running Net Promoter Score. So the stories as well as the data can be very powerful. Leading and lagging. A leading metric on your car is the gas rangefinder that tells you how much distance you have left before you run out of gas. Not 100% accurate. Mine's at the very beginning tells me about 100 miles more than I actually have, and at the end tells me about 10 less than I actually have, which is probably a good thing. A lagging metric is the trip odometer, how far you've been. So leading indicators or metrics help you see into the future in a way that does have some noise and error into it. Lagging indicators tell you the story about what happened in the past. So if you think about running your business, if you're running your business off of lagging indicators, it's like driving your car looking through the rearview mirror. Leading indicators are like looking out the front of the car. I actually know somebody who can drive pretty effectively looking only out the rearview mirror. It's kind of creepy. As long as the road's straight, you're good, but any turns and you're in trouble. Business is the same way. The thing about startups where you have a huge advantage is larger companies run their company almost exclusively off of lagging metrics. So if you can create, or if some market trend bends the road on them, they're just going to keep going straight. And you can follow the bend in the road because you're looking out the front of the car, not out the back. So if we think about this from a startup standpoint, prospect demos per week, that's a leading indicator potentially of sales. Now, if you're in marketing, because this is all relative, leading and lagging is relative. If you're in marketing, prospect demos per week is actually a lagging indicator of your marketing campaigns. So keep in mind, it's very perspective-based where you're at between leading and lagging. But obviously, prospect demos will come before deals closed per week. So if you want to predict how many deals you're closing this week, some math on your prospect demos will help you build that understanding of your business. Generic, specific, and behavioral. So as we think about this, metrics can fall into these different camps, different classifications. So in a car, a generic metric is the speedometer. Every single car has a speedometer in it, so you can know how fast you're going. A specific measurement in your car related to gas cars, not electric, is the oil temperature. And then behavioral is if you put one of those computer dongles into your car, it can tell you if you're braking fast, if you're accelerating hard. So it can give you all these behavioral statistics around your business. So the startup equivalent is a generic metric is available cash. Now, any of you that are close to running out of money know that this doesn't mean just because it's lagging or a generic metric that it's not a valuable metric. Because if you're getting close to running out of cash, available cash is a KPI you should pay a lot of attention to. But it's generic. Every company in the land has one of those. Monthly recurring revenue, that's specific to term-based businesses, so recurring revenue type businesses. And then behavioral is something very specific to your company. So one of the companies that I was working with out of the Chicago program, one of their key metrics they really paid attention to, their workflow system, was number of hours saved per workflow that was instantiated in their customer's environment. So that let them understand that the product wasn't just being used, but it was valuable to the organization, to their customer. So again, it doesn't mean that one of these is better than the other, but it helps you understand the nuance of your business. One of my favorites, correlation and causation. So we are meaning-making machines, which means that if we see the data, a near perfect correlation between import oil from Norway and cars getting run down by trains, near perfect correlation. Now our brains will jump to the fact that, oh, that's causality. Telling myself the story, that means we're using more oil, it means we're driving more. The more we drive, we get hit by trains more. Maybe, maybe not. Causality is if I turn my blinker on, the light flashes next to my speedometer. I caused that to happen. So in startup land, a correlation could be Facebook spend and signups. A lot of you will think the more we spend on Facebook, the more signups we get. A lot of you have data that that's true. One of the companies that I was working with, they believed that was true. So they ran a test. The hypothesis was if we spend more on Facebook, our signups will go up, 10% more on Facebook, 10% more signups. They ran the test and got about, not quite, they got about 5% more. And they were like, awesome, correlation there. And then they dug into the data and they realized that when they ran the campaign, they actually screwed up. And they stopped their Facebook spend. And their signups went up 5%. No correlation between Facebook spending. So that wanders more into causality, which is, in this example, there was a company that was trying to get an increase in day one signups of their mobile app. They ran an experiment where they put an in-app guide in to try to up the conversion rate on day one. So they ran that with a subset of their market. They got the hypothesis came true. Then they turned it off, came back down within baseline, turned it back on, came back up. So they were able to do a cause and effect test on that. There's a little trick that can help you, because we're all storytelling machines, to help you check in on, are we in correlation here or causation? Because causation is a gold standard. Like, you want to know, if we do this over here in our business, this great thing's going to happen over here. But it takes a long time to get there. The trick with correlation is if you look at it and flip the order and it still makes sense, you probably have correlation. We'll go back to this one as an example. So if the correlation, you could say, if we import more crude oil, do train accidents go up? Okay, that makes sense. Train accidents go up means we import more crude oil. Maybe, maybe not, but it's coherent. It sort of makes sense. That's when you know you have correlation. Causation is, if you do the same standard, I turn the turn signal on, the light blinks, that causes that. Light blinks, I turn the turn signal on. Does that make any sense in your car? So in that case, you know you have potential for causality there because it doesn't make sense the other direction. So you're looking for what's called the arrow of direction or arrow of correlation or causality ultimately in your business. But early on, all you have is stuff that, well, these seem to happen together. And it's a mystery why, and that's part of entrepreneurship, is digging in and understanding why.